back. President Joe Biden has signed an executive order that revokes a Trump-era attempt to ban Chinese-owned apps, including TikTok and WeChat. So joining us now to discuss the impact of that decision is former Deputy Assistant to President Trump for Counterterrorism, Kash Patel, and also business and market analyst Seth Jensen. So welcome to both of you to Wake Up America this morning. Kash, I'll start with you. President Biden now calling for the Commerce Department to launch national security reviews of apps with links to foreign adversaries, including China. So can you break down for the people at home, what exactly does this executive order mean, and what did you make of the decision?
Well, first of all, this entire process has been done in reverse. What we did under President Trump when Rick Grenell and I were running the IC is we did the intelligence review first and made recommendations to the White House as to what's in the best national security interest of the American people. This is an example of a continuation of the politicization by the Biden administration of just doing the opposite of whatever President Trump did. It would have been one thing if he said, let's review the material that we have in our holdings now and see if this TikTok order is sufficient to continue. All he did was reverse it, and all it does is damage America's national security interest because it's publicly known that TikTok takes American people's personal private information and has the ability to sell it and exchange it with the Chinese government, which is one of the biggest national security threats we face.
And Seth, that's what former President Donald Trump was warning, that these apps were collecting data, allowing the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal information. Do you think the decision was purely political by the Biden administration?
Well, it's hard to see how it's not political, Rachel, and that's in large part because in reality, the Trump administration had not completely removed TikTok. I mean, kids everywhere are still on TikTok in the United States. So it's hard to see that this wasn't more of a symbolic saying, you know, Grandpa Joe's good, maybe Grandpa Don was bad. But, you know, to the point that was just made, the Department of Commerce is going to analyze these apps. Well, that's what the Trump administration order was calling to do really anyway. And there's over 11,000 apps that are going to be analyzed. So as we start to look at this and see what's going on, it really makes you really wonder what was the end game here other than just kind of saving some face.
It also just has to make you wonder, the rise of TikTok was during the pandemic when everyone was stuck at home and everything was closed. It's just the two and the coincidences are hard to ignore. But yesterday on Wake Up America, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost warned against the growing power social media apps and big tech have on our society. Let's take a quick listen to that.
I think we need to recognize that when a company becomes as powerful as a government, it's time to be asking some serious questions about our freedom.
Kash, do you think apps like TikTok are in the clear, or do you think they're going to face more pushback?
I don't think they're in the clear because, as I said, the intelligence already exists, and it's not extremely classified. It's actually unclassified. We know that TikTok, ByteDance, and other companies like that are owned or partially affiliated with the Chinese government. And the reason they have that relationship with those companies is because the Chinese government mines Americans' information, PII, what we call personal information, and sells it back to the Chinese government for money, or the Chinese government, because it's a communist nation, just takes it from people like TikTok. And that is a national security threat to have your personal information, my personal information, and the rest of the 365 million American people owned by China, because what do they do with that intelligence? They turn around and use it to target America's national security interests to their advantage and to our degradation.
Now, according to a new Bloomberg article, China and the U.S. are agreeing to push forward on trade and investment ties. So, Seth, I'll start with you, and then Kash, I'll direct this question to you as well. How do you think this will impact President Biden's trip in Europe, where he is set to meet with G7 allies to address the threat of China?
So we have a saying down here in Texas. It's not always a good thing when you're trying to ride two horses with one rear. And I cleaned that up a little bit for you, though, Rachel. So, you know, listen, I think what we're going to see here is the Biden administration talk out of both sides of its mouth, right? I mean, you're going to have one position when you're talking directly to China, and you're going to have another position when you're talking to the G7. I think the Biden administration is doing a couple things, but one of the key things here is he's probably trying to hedge his bet. He recognizes, and the administration recognizes, that we're in an inflationary period, and what we're going to need is Chinese goods to be cheaper. 25% tariffs are still in place, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to see played out here.
Kash, real quickly, your thoughts?
And I think that he hits it right on the head. One of the biggest hammers that we used under President Trump was tariffs. And one of the biggest hammers that the Biden administration is not using is tariffs against the likes of China and Russia. And these meetings with the leaders of China and Russia and other folks over in Europe are going to show the stark contrast between President Trump's powerful approach to national security and Joe Biden's political approach to national security. That is, if he can get the cicadas off of Air Force One so he can move around.
The cicadas are concerning, though. Someone who is personally alarmed by them. No. Kash Patel, Seth Denson, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Rachel.